Hey guys, my name's Adam. I'm the head coach at Copper State FIT. Our purpose is to educate, entertain, and inspire you to lead a fit and healthy lifestyle. We hope that by sharing our client stories and providing you with tools, tips, and information that you can apply, that you'll seize the opportunity by turning thought into action. Stick around till the end and we'll provide you with the next steps that you can take, along with helpful links in the show notes. That said, thank you in advance for listening and enjoy the show. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Copper State FIT podcast. I'm your host and head coach, Adam Petropoulos, and I'm here today with Christine Thompson, an amazing client that's got some amazing results working with Coach Dana in our program. And I just had to have her on because her story, you guys, is going to be pretty remarkable and inspiring for you. So, Christine, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's of course start off by learning a little bit about you. Tell us briefly about yourself, where you're from, what you do for a living, what your hobbies and interests are, and all that stuff.
Okay. I'm originally from Washington. My husband and I just moved here to Arizona, getting ready for retirement next year. I work for a wood products company, I guess you could say a pretty good sized one. Timberland's been there 31 years.
Oh.
So yeah. And things I like to do, in my free time, my husband and I like to camp. I like to do puzzles. It just kind of gives me a little time to relax. And I ride a motorcycle.
Ride a motorcycle.
And have really been enjoying that for about the last 12 years now. I called it my midlife crisis.
Your midlife crisis. What kind of motorcycle is it?
I have a 2018 Harley Davidson.
Oh my.
Heritage Softail.
Check you out.
Yes.
So 12 years now you've been riding motorcycles. What got you into that?
To be honest with you, I'm not really sure. It was something I know my daughter had talked about, and it's like, that might be kind of fun. So I took a class just to see if it was something that I would like, and absolutely loved it. So I took the endorsement class.
Okay.
And barely passed that. But I've met a lot of fun people. My daughter and son-in-law ride, all their friends ride. So I've, had a lot of people to ride with. I've been to Sturgis 3 times now, and I'm excited to do a lot more riding down here.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the heat, but
right. Yeah, definitely. And when you say down here,
I'm sorry,
down here in Arizona.
Arizona, yes.
Yeah. Up from Washington, which you said working for in the wood company, like you said, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of that in the Pacific Northwest, but
yes,
out here in the sunny state of Arizona. So welcome to Arizona, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's dive in your story because it's awesome. Tell us a little bit, paint the picture for us about before you started working with CSF. What was the situation like for you in your life, your health? Just give us a picture of what things are like.
Yeah. Health was pretty good. I didn't really have any health issues, but my weight is something I've always struggled with my whole life, and trying to not become overweight or too overweight, I guess. I come from a family of overweight people. And so I was always very conscious of that, and always, paid attention to what I ate. I mean, not real strict, but I wasn't into all the fast foods, I did like junk food and some sweets but just always tried to be careful with that. And then about the time I hit around 50, I noticed, in going through the change, noticed that the weight wasn't coming off as easy. It was kind of just slowly, gradually, I was slowly, gradually putting it on.
Yeah.
And having a harder and harder time taking it off, and I thought I was eating healthy. I wasn't a regular exerciser, I guess you could say, but I did like to get out and walk, have a couple of dogs, so I get them out. But yeah, and then, as I got older, it was, like I said, just so much harder to
Yeah.
to keep it off, to get it off. And I was just kind of pretty much resigned to the fact that, okay, I'm going to be overweight like this. Let's try not to put on more weight and just be happy with it. And I couldn't get myself to that point of just being okay with how I looked.
Wow. Okay. So, like you said, you got to the point right around 50 where you started to notice it was just harder to keep the weight off. Some of the old things that you had done before weren't working. You thought for the most part you were eating pretty good. You were always conscious of your weight, but now it just seemed to be even more of the front of mind and aware of that. And then we're seeming like it was okay, this is how it's going to be, but something inside of you just wouldn't let that be, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I like that. So what were some of the biggest frustrations that you had with that? I mean, as you're seeing your weight go up, you're having a hard time getting it to come off, let alone not continue to go up. What were some of the things, I guess maybe three of your biggest frustrations?
Oh gosh. Just I guess, trying to figure out, the right way or healthy way to eat, and, not being able to figure that out, or, or seeing my weight probably go, it would kind of drop during the week.
Okay.
And then you get to the weekend, of course, and, you're with friends or, going out or something. And then it seems like it would go up a little bit. And then during the week, I could get it to go down. But so just the up and down, and not finding the right fit. I knew there was probably something out there,
Mm-hmm.
that would work for me. And I guess just frustrated trying to, like I said, find the right thing. I mean, thinking I was eating healthy, reading labels.
And there's so much information out there that it's almost too much, and misinformation, right? And a lot of
Right.
things that are conflicting. And one minute you read this and you're like, oh, it's, this is what I need to do. And so you start following it, and maybe it works in the beginning until it doesn't. And then you're like, okay, maybe this isn't it. And you're following something else, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of back and forth and frustration with that, I'm sure. What impact would you say that this was having on your life overall, whether that be your confidence, mentally, emotionally, relationships, anything? Like, how is this having an impact on your life?
Well, yeah, the just, looking at myself in the mirror and, you know, seeing the extra weight there, and not being comfortable with that, being self-conscious about that. I knew that it didn't affect or bother the people around me. So trying not to, you know, knowing that it didn't really affect relationships, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
that's
But,
good.
just always feeling self-conscious about the way that I looked, and constantly looking at myself in a mirror, kind of thinking, how did I let myself get this way? I was always so good trying to keep my weight off,
Mhm.
so that, it always just seemed like a job.
So just more or less, you had done a great job. Like you said, you kind of, your family had some weight issues. You had some, but you had done a good job of really keeping that weight off. And then now as it's creeping up, and not recognizing or liking what you're seeing, and frustrated with the fact that you kind of felt it was out of your control, and almost like, this is what I'm sentenced to, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that makes sense. At the time, I mean, what was your dream goal? I mean, regarding your health, your weight, and everything else, what would you say, like, if you were think back to then, like if you were to snap your fingers, you're like, where would you want to put yourself?
Where would I want to put my, well, I mean, I think back on when I started this, and it was, my expectations were really low. I told myself if I could just lose like maybe 10 or 15 pounds,
Yeah.
um, you know, I'd feel better. My clothes would fit a little bit better. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of high expectations on being able to lose a lot of weight, at least not on my own.
Let's talk about that real quick. What were some of the things that you did try on your own before you discovered CSF? What were some of the things you did or programs you tried or anything?
Well, way back when I was younger, I tried Weight Watchers. I tried a program called the 21 Day Fix, which not crazy about that because it's not a long term.
It kind of says it in the name, 21 day
Yes.
fix. Hmm. Can we really fix anything in 21 days?
Exactly. Because there's no after that.
Yeah.
And we're just, probably finding things online that, healthy recipes or, different things that you figure are healthy, which I have now later found out aren't as healthy as I thought.
Right.
So, but, just, I didn't really have any other programs. The one thing I did when I did join the gym though, and I had started to meet, I had sat down with a personal trainer and they were more focused on the weight part of it, or the weight training part of it. Yep. In that rather than, and a little bit on the nutrition, but I just kept thinking in the back of my mind, for me, it was going to be about nutrition.
Yeah.
That needed to be the first and foremost. And I just knew in the back of my mind that was something that was going to work for me. I was just figuring it out.
And I think that's very common, Christine. I think, I should say uncommon actually, for a lot of people put the cart before the horse in trying to find the right exercise program. And ultimately, like, we can exercise until we're blue in the face, but if we don't have the nutrition dialed in, it's going to be virtually impossible. We're going to be spinning our wheels. I had a client tell me once upon a time, and it was great, and I'll steal this from her and I use it over and over again, but she told me, Adam, I had this realization. And I'm like, okay, well, what was your realization? She said, I can't outrun my fork. And I'm like, absolutely, you're right. You're right about that. And I think, just a real quick analogy of that for the listeners and you too, Christine, like, think about your car for a second, right? If you fill your car with gas, full tank, top it off, how long, if you drove that freeway speeds, 60, 70 miles an hour, how long would it take for you to burn through that full tank of gas? I mean, hours, right? I mean, you could probably drive across several states, right? And that's like exercise. It would take you hours to burn the fuel. Now, back to the car analogy, how long does it take you at the gas pump to fill up your gas tank from empty to full? A matter of minutes, right? And that's analogous to the food that we eat, the calories, the macronutrients, and we could just fill them in so quickly, mindlessly, without thinking about it, without knowing how much we actually put in there. But yet it takes hours and hours to burn through, just like that car takes to burn gas. So the fact that you were already thinking and knowing that, like, I've got to get the nutrition figured out, is awesome. And so how'd you come across CSF? How'd you discover us?
Actually, my sister, Valerie, who actually found you guys through a cousin's wife, Alana.
Yep, Alana.
Yes. And
shout out to Alana and shout out to Valerie if you're out there listening.
Yeah. Yes. And I think I had known that Alana was doing the program. I just didn't know the program. And my little sister, Valerie, I happened to see her last year, Labor Day weekend, and noticed that she had lost weight. Not that I thought she needed to lose, weight. But so I asked her what she was doing, and she was telling me about CSF. And so I kind of thought about it. She talked to me some more, and it's like, maybe it's just about time that, I did something and just give it a try, and low expectations, not for the program, but for myself.
Right.
But, and then that's when, she sent me the information, and I sent in uh, for the consult.
Absolutely. What would you say? I know, like you said, you kind of set the bar low for yourself. You said a little bit earlier, if I could just lose 10 or 15 pounds, my clothes would fit better, I'd feel better, have that confidence. So you already knew going into it, like, I'm not expecting a whole lot, which is great. And it's actually not a bad place to start from. Cause I think when you do it the other way around of like, I'm going to lose all this weight and it's going to happen so fast, I think some people might be in for a rude awakening, right? It's like,
Right.
This is not a 21-day fix.
Right.
What would you say though? What were your biggest objections, concerns, or fears that maybe that you had before you started about getting started, that that other people out there listening are probably thinking the same thing? Like, what were those objections, fears, concerns that you had?
I think some of it was like the food. It's
Okay.
like, okay, what am I going to be eating? That, and I'm always really open to that, because I know when you're in, and I do not call this a diet.
Yeah.
I call it a lifestyle change.
Love it.
In fact, my husband, when people have said something about me being on a diet, he says, no, it's not a diet. It's a lifestyle change, because I don't see it as a diet. I see it as a new way to learn how to eat. But sometimes the food, what you might be expected to eat, what it's going to entail. And then it's like also trying to not pull my husband into it, but maybe is there anything in there that he might enjoy? Because I don't have a problem with stuff that's kind of bland or, not real flavorful, or, or kind of off the norm of, like a burger and fries or something.
Yeah.
So that didn't steer me away. I was kind of expecting that.
Okay, so you were probably expecting, like many people, it sounds like, some of the thoughts or concerns of the maybe limited food choices, whether or not your husband would, I think I hear this from a lot, husbands or wives who start the program of, well, am I going to have to eat something just completely different, right? And I think that you
Correct.
quickly realize, like, no, I get to eat what I eat. It's just, controlling those portions and everything. So that makes a lot of sense. Were there any other things that you were like worried about or concerned about?
I guess just the whole thing of, is it even really going to work for me? Am I just walking into something, another kind of, not, I don't want to say not fad, but what, something that, I'm going to do for just a little while. And then I'm going to either lose interest or find out it's not working and just become very disappointed.
Right. I think that's the biggest fear that everyone has at the end of the day is, am I going to invest in something and either A, quit on myself and not follow through with it, or B, follow through with it and it not work for me, right? Like now I'm not just in the same place I was before I started, but I've invested money and I'm in the same place I was before I started. So that is a big concern. That makes a lot of sense. So what stood out? Obviously, Alana, Valerie, you had seen other people go through the program, but was there anything in particular that resonated with you, whether it be through your due diligence, your research, asking questions on the consultation call that we had, anything that stood out to you that clicked, that you're like, okay, this feels right?
Well, I think, after talking, to Valerie and her kind of explaining, things to me, and watching her, I spent the whole weekend with her and watching what she was eating. And it's like, okay, I can do that. It just seemed like she always had a plate full of food.
Yeah.
And then, after, finally, you know, taking the chance and, having the consultation, that too, talking with you and, you know, having you really explain things to me and not trying to push me into something that might not be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about on the other side. You made the leap of faith and made the investment in yourself, and describe the moment when you first started noticing that it was actually making a difference and you were seeing changes, whether they be physical, mental, anything. When did you first notice that?
Well, it seems like always the first week or two, you seem to drop, which I told myself, that's probably, water weight.
Right.
So probably after about 3 or 4 weeks, when I noticed the weight was coming off and it was staying off.
Mm.
And I knew mentally too that it was going to be a gradual thing. It wasn't going to be an overnight thing. It was going to take time. When I knew how much weight I initially wanted to lose and, the time frame I was given, I thought, well, gosh, that's a long time for the amount of weight. But I also,
tell people
like I
that.
said, mentally knew that, it's not, to get it to come off and stay off and for things to stick, it's going to be a slow, gradual process.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the consultation call, I plug in your weight, your goal weight, and I usually tell people a fairly accurate estimate of how long it's going to take them. And I would say most people, Christine, have that same visceral response of, gosh, that's a long time. Right. And it's cliche, but true. Like, well, it didn't come on that fast. It's not going to go off that fast. But to your point, I think back to the 21-day fix, I'll keep picking on that one, but like,
sure.
We're not going to fix anything in a short period of time. And I don't think it's necessarily like, when I say fix, it's not the weight that we're talking about. It's not the inches we're talking about, right? It's the habits, the actions, the behaviors, some of these false narratives and beliefs that we carry for so long, right? Like yourself, many women who come to our program that are either peri or post-menopause of like, well, I just can't lose, my metabolism's shot. And it's like, well, it's probably because you've just been taught a lot of things that aren't true. You're subscribed to certain things or doing certain things that are actually hurting your progress, not helping. And as soon as we kind of unlock those doors with a few small keys, like, we're going to open some big doors and start to see things move the direction that we want it to go.
Yeah, that is true.
What would you say are some of your favorite features of the program? Do you have any, maybe if you can think of 3 specific like features, frameworks, structures, what are things that you think were your favorites?
Well, my favorites are the fact that there's already recipes out there for me.
And trust me, we see every single client, every time you log, you may not know this. And for the clients listening, every time you log a meal, it lands on our timeline feed. We see every single meal. And I love like yours specifically. It's like, I'm gonna tell you, I saw you had pizza yesterday from the recipes, right? I'm like, yeah, look at Christine go. It's just so cool when we see clients using the resources available. So I didn't mean to steal your jump in, but yeah, the recipes.
Oh no.
Recipes.
Well, because I knew that would be my biggest thing, is trying to find, the recipes and the right, what I call combinations. And I tell people this when they ask me, what did you do? And it's like, I found somebody who could give me the right combinations in the foods and the proteins, the carbs, and the fats. And because I know you couldn't cut one or all of them out, it had to be a good combination. Yeah. And even in some of the recipes that I go back and look at now, it's like, oh, wow, nope, that's not going to work for me. Mm. I look at these, and to already have them there for me is so beneficial. I mean, that is probably one of my favorite, parts of it.
Do you have one in particular that was your favorite, the one that you go back to over and over again?
You probably see this, my breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
I love that because when we go camping, that's always one thing I make for a breakfast. And, I'm always thinking, okay, well, it's probably not the greatest thing. And then here it is, a recipe, instead of using an egg, I use egg whites and I use provolone cheese, but it's like, this is one of my favorite breakfasts.
Yeah.
And I've got some other recipes that I do, go back to, and then I do, some simple things, but yeah.
That's awesome. I'll have to admit, breakfast sandwiches are probably my favorite too. So I'm a breakfast guy. Renee will even tell you, like, if I, for whatever reason, eat later in the day to start my day, it's like, it's lunchtime, I'm still eating breakfast. Like, I gotta have my breakfast. I might even have it twice a day.
One of my favorite dinners is I love doing the raspberry French toast.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorites, and I'll do it at night because I have a little more time to make it, or on the weekend, of course. But
absolutely,
yeah.
So the recipes one. Anything else that you can think of that were like, again, features, frameworks, resources, parts of the program that you love?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the coaching. Dana has just been. I can't even put into words what she has done for me, how much she has helped me and encouraged me. And, to have her to talk to every week, letting me know, you're doing great. I mean, the guidance she has given me is just invaluable. And, to help me understand all of this and for it all to make sense.
Yeah, you need someone there that's going to pick you up when you're down.
Yep.
That's going to maybe kick you in the butt when you need a little kick in the butt, right? Little tough love from time to time. And she's great at balancing both of those. She's a true asset for our team and, has been here for quite some time and coached a lot of people. But I'm glad you mentioned that because the coaching is a big part of it. And I think with coaching, people are concerned that it's going to be like this slap on the wrist. Why'd you eat this? Why'd you eat that? You can't do this. And it's, how would you describe it if you could?
There was never any of that. If I had questions or concerns, she always seemed to have an answer. But even if there may have been a week where maybe I ate a little bit more, or maybe, I had an extra glass of wine or something, if I, went up, maybe a pound, there was never I never felt bad about it. She'd encourage me, okay, well, let's think about this coming week. Let's get back on track. It was everything with her was encouraging, no matter whether I had a high or a low. So I always look forward to the calls, always look forward to talking to her, seeing what she had to say. Without her, I don't know. I don't know. I probably could have gotten through it, but
yeah,
it just made so much of a difference. And I know my sister talked very highly of her too. And
she's great. She's fantastic. I mean, let's talk about some challenges. Can you recall a time or two where you maybe felt stuck in the program, or like things weren't necessarily going your way, or maybe hitting any plateaus? And if so, what helped you kind of get through that and overcome those challenges?
I did at one time. I'm trying to think of where I was. It may have been like after the holidays, because I seemed to get through the holidays okay. But I do remember a time where I got stuck for a couple of weeks. I just felt like I wasn't losing any weight. I was kind of staying the same. And it's like, okay, it's that plateau that you hear everybody talk about.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I was trying to be positive, telling myself, okay, I'll get through it. Just be patient, and then, and talking with Dana too, and, her encouragement on that, just to, just keep with it. She'd give me maybe pointers on, what to concentrate on, or, because there were times when I wasn't real great with my water, or, my fruits and vegetables,
Yep.
but, she was always encouraging, and I did get, I got past that, and then just, back on the gradual, and I kept waiting for that next plateau, and luckily I did really hit it. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. And so let's talk about big wins. I mean, if you've had some big ones. You said you wanted to lose 10 or 15 was kind of what you were looking at. I know on your form, your intake form, you gave us a number. I'm not going to leak that number. You can talk about numbers if you want to, but I will say that you've lost over 45 pounds. I will say that, which is pretty stinking incredible. And I think, if I remember off the top of my head, it was like over 21% body fat as well that you've dropped. So those are pretty big numbers. Did you surprise yourself?
I did. I did. I will tell you, when I did set the goal, I thought if I lost 25 pounds, I would be happy. And, I could be comfortable with that. And then as it came off, it was coming off probably, I think, a little quicker than I had planned. I think maybe a little quicker than Dana thought it might. So it's like, okay, well, let's, go ahead and shoot for 35 pounds. Mm-hmm. And moved into that. And after that, it was just not necessarily purpose. It just kind of worked that, well, I'm still doing this. I'm still comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm laughing here, Christine, as you're saying this. You said not on purpose, because it's, again, going back to that narrative of like age and hormones and menopause and all of these things. And I can just hear the listeners out there shaking their fists. So what do you mean accidentally losing weight?
Because I was just comfortable with what I was eating and the calories that I was eating. And I didn't feel hungry. I didn't feel starved. I felt like too, if I wanted to have, I like the York peppermint patties, and the little ones at every once in a while for lunch. I'll have one of those.
Yep.
So I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I listened to one of your podcasts. I heard, and I didn't know about this, the Yasso bars, ice cream.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I've gotten a few of those. So I get my sweets. I don't have a real big sweet tooth, but I do like something sweet once in a while. Not super huge on chocolate, probably a good thing.
Yeah, that's to your advantage.
Yeah. But I like my ice cream, and so it's enough. I don't have to have one every night, but maybe once or twice a week, I will admit I'll do that, especially in the Arizona heat.
Yep.
But yeah, so.
Well, gosh, over 40 pounds, over 20% body fat, like that's the numbers, right? But I think ultimately what people are looking for, chasing, is not a number, but a feeling. And that self-confidence, back what you talked about at the beginning of looking in the mirror and not recognizing or feeling like this is just what I've been confined to now. And so what ripple effect did this have on your life in terms of your confidence and, everything else?
Gosh, the biggest thing is I like looking at myself in the mirror now, because I can put on clothes that I've had in the closet and have refused to give away. A lot of them are my Harley shirts.
Yeah, right.
That have, that I put on I had put on before and had taken off because it's like, I don't like that bulge there in the middle. And now I put them on and they fit nice. They fit like when I first bought them, they're comfortable. And so, like I said, and just the compliments I've gotten from people and to just feel better about myself, and the way I look and to feel like I've done something healthy for myself,
Yeah,
in,
absolutely. I
in
think
my
that's
eating.
a big thing too. I know you said you didn't have any real health concerns, but like, I think that's something that we oftentimes overlook is, are we doing this for health or are we doing this for, a number on a scale or whatnot? So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
What would you say have been your biggest lessons or takeaways?
That I can do this. I mean, that I can lose the weight. I can keep the weight off because I have kept it off now for, gosh, probably, I've maintained for a month,
Yeah.
I think a month
And
or more.
just
And
to jump in real quick too, you're now in the metabolic reset phase. And so Dana's actually adding calories through this
yeah,
process,
that's
right? And you're eating more and more and more. And I looked at your graph today and it's like you're still, you're again accidentally losing as your calories are going up. Is that kind of a little mystifying for you?
yes. And I on me trying to add, I was comfortable with the calories we were at that were helping me lose the weight. And then to try and add more calories actually has been a bit of a challenge,
Mm.
and trying to, maintain that because I was still losing some weight, which I didn't necessarily mean to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, adding the food back in, which I said has made it nice because, like I said before, I love all the recipes out there, but there have been some that I've steered away from because the calorie count on them is higher.
Mhm.
And now there's recipes I can look at.
All kinds of new ones open some doors,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
And for the listeners out there, that the phase, so after the fat loss phase, when we introduced the metabolic reset, the why behind that is because when you're in a caloric restriction for long periods of time, it's a stress on your body and it causes some adaptations. Your metabolism does slow down a bit. Hormones do, dysregulate. All the hormones like thyroid hormone and things that control metabolism slow down. Hormones like the reproductive hormones for men, testosterone drops, for women, estrogen and progesterone drop, and all the hormones that control appetite and hunger kind of become dysregulated as well. So it's an important thing that we pull you out of that and then bring you to a level of caloric intake that your body needs to get the hormones running and metabolism going again, and also to allow you to see how much food that you need to fuel your body with, and to be able to maintain that weight. And we do it slowly because we don't want to overwhelm, like you said, adding those back in all of a sudden you're like this is actually a challenge, and we don't want to overwhelm your digestive system, we don't want to overwhelm your metabolism. So it's this slow approach that we take until we kind of like realize, okay, we're no longer losing anymore, we've maintained, and then that's the ceiling and you get to hang there. So what advice would you have, Christine, for beginners, maybe people that are just starting their health journey with CSF right now, maybe advice that you wish you had gotten, or if you were starting and you were able to go back and talk to Christine day one and say, hey, Christine, here's some advice. What are maybe 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give a beginner?
Don't get discouraged. You know, it's a slow, gradual process, and just, believe in yourself that you can do this, and stick with it. I know sometimes that's a hard thing. I I don't think I had some of the challenges maybe that other people have. I'm not a stress eater, and I I don't want to say I find it easy to stick with something because obviously, I haven't, I've struggled my whole life, but
Yeah.
knowing what I know now, that this is something that I can stick with, even after everything's said and done, I'm all completely finished or whatever, that this is something that is going to stick with me.
Yeah.
And that even if I kind of fall off track a little bit, I know I can get right back on.
100%. And I think, Valerie's still using the app and tracking foods and everything else, your sister, and maintaining and doing great. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of people choose to continue and make this their lifestyle. And I think they should, so that's great. So the advice, what advice then would you give to someone on the outside looking in? Maybe that person that's listening today that's considered booking a consultation, is maybe hasn't pulled the trigger. Maybe they have had a consultation with us and just maybe didn't jump on board. What advice would you give to those on the outside looking in?
Don't let don't let the weight loss journey daunt you. If you think it's going to be beneficial, obviously it's going to be beneficial. Follow through with it. You're going to find something that works. And this is what I found. It works for me. It's going to work for a lot of other people too. And that's the one thing when people have asked me, what did you do? And I said, I know my biggest thing was, and like I said earlier, is finding the right combinations of food.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was a big part of it. And this program helped me with that. And I think the one thing that made me really nervous is having to log everything.
I'd love for you to touch on that. Keep going. Because that's a big hang up for a lot of people, but keep going.
Yes. And that was probably my biggest fear. And Valerie even reassured me. She says, once you start doing it, it's not that big of a deal. And it's not. I found that out. It maybe took me a couple of weeks to get comfortable with everything.
Yep.
And it's really easy with the recipes too, because all you got to do is just click the recipe and log it. There are a few that I've kind of revamped myself, and I have to do those, separate. And there have been a few of my own recipes that I have figured out, everything in them and put them in customization.
Yep.
But once you do it, at this point, I can't imagine not having to log my food, keep track of it, because it's also an accountability thing, which
100%.
When you're on this kind of a journey, you kind of need that to help you get through it.
Yeah. I tell people, there's a famous quote by Peter Drucker. It says, what gets measured gets managed. Right. And I also tell people, if you were hiring a financial advisor or somebody who was going to help get you out of debt, you'd be tracking your expenses, your income, like you'd be seeing where every dollar is going. And this is the equivalent to seeing where every calorie is going, right?
Yeah.
And every protein and carb and fat, like you said, unlocking the right combo of those macronutrients for you. And if you're not doing that, well, we're going to be guessing, right?
Right.
So I love that you pointed that out. So excellent. Well, let's talk what now? What now? What are these future plans? Did you have any big dreams, any big visions, anything that you wanted to tackle once you got to, feeling like this, looking like this? What's next?
Well, I like being outside. I like walking. I've always wanted to do a lot more hiking. And so something that I put on my bucket list that I found when I was here in Arizona in the end of January, house shopping, is there is a staircase built into the rock up. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. I apologize. It's north of Buckeye. and went up to this golf course with some friends just to sit out on the patio and look at the view. But there is a staircase up there, and it's like, and I was, even in January, I was feeling good. It's like, I want to be healthy enough to climb that staircase. So I have actually talked to Dana about it, and we're going to pick a date in this fall to go to meet up there.
Love it. That's
and
awesome.
My daughter and son-in-law, they live in Colorado. They do a lot of hiking up there. So that's on my list to do some hiking with them. And, just when, like I said, my husband and I are planning on retiring next spring, and just doing some traveling and, just feeling good about that, not feeling self-conscious about myself, and, knowing I have the tools that, hey, I can go out, I can enjoy that part of the next phase of our life and still be a healthy me.
That's incredible. I love it. Especially with the staircase, like you said, when you saw it, you just like put that and plan it in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to do that. Right. Yeah. That's great. Well, I'm going to flip the script now, Christine. It's been like 21 questions here. All right. Like that game.
Yeah.
But your turn. Are there any questions, anything that you wanted to ask of me, anything that's been on your mind?
To be honest with you, not really.
Cool.
I've been very happy with this. I'm planning on, staying with it, to keep track and accountability for myself. I think everybody needs a little help along the way, even if you're at the maintenance phase, I guess, if you want to call it that, just to kind of keep in check.
I think that's, if not almost more important. I mean, a lot of programs out there, and that's why we go through and even have the grads program, which I know you're transitioning to next month, right? But it's like, most programs are these weight loss programs, and you get to your goal and it's high five, Christine, great job, see you later. But then you're like, oh shoot, like nobody taught me how to maintain this. Like, what do I do now? So I like that you said that. I mean, it's a big part of the journey, and yeah, we'll be there for you. So yeah. Well, it's been great. You've done awesome today. And I know that the people out there are going to get a lot from this. It's inspiring. Someone who wanted to lose 10 or 15 pounds and just feel a little bit better about how the clothes were fitting, to a 45-pound drop and, quote, accidentally going past that goal. And now, in the reverse, the reset, metabolic reset, reverse diet, still losing a little bit here and there and increasing calories. But now that you're approaching retirement, realizing, gosh, age is just a number. I'm going to climb those stairs. I'm going to probably ride my motorcycle all over when I get retired, and just feel confident and comfortable, and got all those old Harley shirts that you can pull out now that you feel good about, right?
Right.
So, Christine, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you, Adam.
You having on board with us for this call. And we've just loved watching you transform, not just on the outside, but on the inside, and the confidence that you have. So thanks again.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you and to Dana and to this program. It's been what I needed. And hopefully, like you said, hopefully this will inspire somebody else to look into it, and, it'll be right for them too.
I'm 100% sure of that, for sure. Well, thanks a bunch, Christine. You have a remarkable rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thank you too.
Hey guys, this is Adam, head coach at Copper State FIT. If you felt inspired by the show you just heard and feel like taking it a bit further, we'd like to help. For those of you looking to take baby steps, download our free MyFitnessPal tutorial and macro cheat sheet. Link can be found in the show notes. And for those of you that want to take a little more than a baby step, schedule a free phone consultation with us. We'll answer all your questions and provide you with personalized information. No strings attached, no obligation to buy. But if you do, we'll throw in a bonus. Mention podcast 49 in your consult notes, and we'll take $49 off your first month. The only wrong decision is indecision, so pick what's right for you. Thanks again for listening. I look forward to speaking with you.